Coach, we're underway with the 2024-25 season. You've had 2 weekends of tournaments, and then this Friday, wrestle at number 6, NC State, 7 o'clock in Reynolds Coliseum on the ACC Network Extra. I guess just starting off, if you want to give a little bit of a look back, maybe first we'll start with this past weekend, Mountaineer Invitational, a lot of guys involved, and just how you thought that went for the team.
Well, I think our guys competed well this past weekend. I really didn't know what to expect. I mean, we've got a lot of new faces in our lineup and a lot of guys that are just not battle tested yet. So I think we were curious to see how we would respond in some really good competition last weekend with teams like Minnesota and Virginia Tech being here. But I was really proud of our guys. I mean, we had a lot of nationally ranked wins this past weekend, a lot of quality wins. And I think I was encouraged by the effort and the progress we showed from the first weekend when we competed at the Southeast Open and at the Citadel Open. I think we made a tremendous amount of improvement just in that week. And so, I'm just looking for this team to continue improving each and every week. And if they can do that, I think we'll be a pretty decent team by March.
You touched on the improvement, just for especially some of the younger guys that were either wrestled at the Citadel or at the Southeast Open. What are some of the things you were wanting to see improvement-wise to grow either from last week back in Boone or moving forward?
Well, number one is consistency. Some of our guys just really had up and down performances throughout just one day of competition. Like they have a really good performance and then kind of a letdown performance. And so I think just getting those young guys to understand that they've got to be consistent with their performance, which might be involved in their preparation, maybe in their warm-up, maybe in their weight cut, whatever it might be, there's got to be more consistency from those young guys. And then the other thing we've really been hammering home is scoring a lot more points. Like I don't think the first weekend we scored a whole lot of points, and we weren't taking a ton of risks. We were trying to hang on and win close matches, and I just don't think that's a recipe for having a lot of success for this program. I mean, we have to score a lot of points. We got to be aggressive. We have to use conditioning as a factor. That's always been something that's been very strong for us. And so just encouraging our guys to take more risk, score more points, and try to make matches, be a little bit more of a brutal pace. That's kind of what we've talked a lot about in the room, and we have to score more points.
One of the coolest things Saturday was seeing Sean Carter back on the mat in an App State singlet. I guess just for the background, he gets hurt in January of 2023 against Sam Latona from Virginia Tech, who's an two-time All-American, and that was an overtime match. He wins his first match, is in a semifinal with Sam again, is in overtime again, and pulls out a pretty emotional win. What was like, and made the final, and obviously he wanted to do better in that. But to see him back and competing, and in that moment against a guy he had a lot of familiarity with, what was that like to witness from your perspective?
Yeah, it was a little bit surreal. Just coming back to that same matchup in Varsity Gym was where Sean got injured in overtime 2 years ago in the dual meet. And so it was a little bit surreal, kind of all the factors that played into that match taking place. And then they go into overtime again. And, it was just great for Sean to see him come back from such a devastating injury a year and a half later against the same opponent, who's a very good opponent we have a tremendous amount of respect for, and be able to pull out a win in that dramatic fashion. I think it was huge for him, not just from a physical standpoint and a rankings or notoriety standpoint, but just from a mental standpoint, just overcoming that adversity that he's been through the last couple of years.
In conversations with him, what are the things that stand out about? He's at a different weight, up to 141. He's a couple of years removed from competition, but has had success. What are the things that you kind of, whether it's expectations or goals or just kind of the effort he puts in that you guys talk about?
Well, I think honestly, he's a more complete wrestler than he was 2 years ago. I think his wrestling has grown tremendously in the last 2 years. You could take in a lot of different positions and look at him, and he's just better than he was 2 years ago. I mean, even in like a scramble position, I think he's got more comfortable in some of these scramble positions. I saw him win a couple of scramble positions Saturday that he would definitely not have won 2 years ago. I think his mat wrestling has gotten a lot better, both from a top and bottom standpoint. But I think just the maturity of growing and getting an opportunity again probably means a lot to him. And I think he's definitely drawn from those experiences over the last couple of years to hopefully make him a more complete wrestler now.
You've got three guys, counting Sean, that have been SoCon champions, wrestled at NCAAs, and are ranked currently, along with Will Miller at 165, is in a top 10 in some rankings, and Tomas Brooker in there as well. Just if you can kind of comment on what you've seen out of, especially those two. You've touched on Sean, but Will and Tomas so far.
Well, they've grown a ton. I think the NCAA tournament experiences, they make a big difference. Like once you've been to that tournament and you've competed in it, it definitely changes who you are as a wrestler and what your expectations are. Maybe your understanding of the level of wrestling that you have to be at to compete at the national tournament. It's definitely changed the way they train, the way they believe, the way that they prepare. It's just been a tremendous influence on kind of what they've done in the off season. And I think that Tomas Brooker has really grown. He's made tremendous strides. Now he's got to get a lot better. I think there's still a lot of room for growth. Same thing with Will Miller. Like I still, he had a good tournament on Saturday, like as far as from a result standpoint, but I still think there's a lot better wrestling in him than what you saw on Saturday.
And then a few other guys that App State fans will be familiar with. I mean, Chad Ballas is up to 133. You got Luke Giuliano, he's back at 174, and Carson Floyd's been a mainstay at that 197 spot. Of just the growth that you're trying to see out of them this year.
Yeah, I definitely think that all those guys have gotten better. Chad had a great performance at the Southeast Open, up a weight class, from where he was a year ago. I think he's probably feels a lot better, has a lot more energy and ability to compete at that 133 weight class. I think at 174, Luke is, he won the Southeast Open his first weekend. I think he's grown a ton, and I think his expectations for his wrestling are a lot different than they were a year ago. And then Carson Floyd, I'm happy with where he's at right now. He's made a ton of progress. Last year was a really tough year for him from a physical standpoint. He wasn't able to train the way that he is now. And even the ups and downs so far this season, I think, are going to help him, and he's growing. He's getting better right now. Like, I'm happy with his progress. Win or loss, I think he's in a good spot. I really like the trajectory he's on right now.
And that leaves a handful of spots where it's some younger guys, or maybe there's still stuff to figure out, and it's not set in stone by any means. But just as you assess maybe some of those underclassmen or new look spots, kind of where that stands with this group.
I mean, we still have a ton of weight classes that I would not say we have definitely determined who our starter is. We've had mixed results the first couple of weeks of the season. We have some young guys that this will be their first opportunity to wrestle in front of a hostile environment and a big dual meet setting, and that'll tell you a lot about where they are as well from a development standpoint. I think it's going to be week to week for us, probably for this first semester, who our starters are, and hopefully by the time early January comes, we'll be pretty set on those. But I would say it's going to take us another month or so to figure out who our starters are at some of those weight classes.
Facing NC State this Friday, and then you've got a big home duel against West Virginia, which is ranked, and a pretty loaded schedule. But just starting this Friday, it's been a good matchup with NC State through the years, and obviously they're very talented, and you have a lot of respect for them. Just a little preview of what you expect going to Raleigh on Friday. I
mean, they're a really good team. Their program is in a great spot. They do a great job developing their student athletes. They wrestle hard. And we have a tremendous amount of respect for them, but we are also very excited about the opportunity. I think we've got guys that can wrestle with their guys and compete with them, and that's our intent, to go down there and compete and to try to win. We're not going to go down there just to kind of fill a date on the schedule. But we know we got to be ready to wrestle, because they're not going to overlook us. They've had enough close matches with us and enough battles with us over the last 3 or 4 years that I promise you they're not thinking this is going to be an easy match. I promise you they're preparing. They're making sure their guys are mentally ready to go, and so we expect a battle, and I think we'll get their best on Friday night, because they don't want to have a letdown against us, and hopefully our guys are going to be able to rise to the occasion. Just last thing is some excitement builds for the home schedule. Some people have seen the photos and the videos of what Varsity Gym will look like, and can you just, maybe if people haven't maybe missed that, just a little bit of preview of what Varsity Gym will look like for fans this year? Well, I think the excitement, if you've seen the new setup with our new bleachers, our new competition mat, today as I came up from the gym for this, come up to the office a couple of hours ago, they're already starting to put the video board up. Hopefully it's going to be installed and ready to go for next Friday night when we wrestle West Virginia at home. But our dual meet atmosphere is going to be second to none. I mean, I'm so excited for the new upgrades, the new seating, the new mat. our video board. It's just going to be a real treat for our fans, and hopefully our guys are excited for the opportunity to compete in that kind of environment for the best fans in the country.